Hello everybody, welcome. This is Murphy's Law, Gallifreyan Time Dragon, aka the Doctor. I know it's been a while since I posted anything, but a lot of things have been happening, so I thought I'd try an experiment. When I'm at work and I've been doing drive-through orders, I've had a lot of customers tell me that I have a radio voice, or at least sound like a robot computer, AI, and I thought I would try to put that voice to good use outside of work, or at least to some fun use. So what I like to do is a little experiment. I like to read part of the story to you and let y'all, the audience, figure out how I'm doing. And hopefully y'all can let me know. The story I'm going to be reading, or at least part of it for right now, as part of the experiment, is this, Scratchman by Tom Baker. For those of you Whovians, yes, this is in fact the Fourth Doctor. You can see his picture right here. So essentially, the Doctor is going to be reading a story about the Doctor by the Doctor. I'm going to be reading the prologue and the first chapter just to see how it goes, and I hope that y'all will let me know. So, let's start it, shall we? Scratchman by Tom Baker. Book 1, The Long Night. Beginning of Fear. The Time Lord was late. He was in trouble, and he'd been summoned to the Convocation of Oblivion to account for his actions. His august peers had gathered in a tall tower, in a tall city, to hear one of his tall stories. "He's going to say he saved the universe again," huffed one to another, running a finger round a stiff collar. "It's where he left it, isn't it?" his friend sneered. He'd been a junior archivist for 3,000 years, and in his experience, the universe continued much as it always had done. "As if that's enough to stop him," hissed his friend, looking around at the crowd of collared lords, buzzing like angry wasps woken from a nap. "Always gets out of punishment by claiming to have snatched existence from the jaws of something or other, and yet," the archivist cast his eyes up at the endless universe twinkling beyond the skies, "you don't see the stars going out, do you?" "No doubt he claimed that was down to him," huffed a revered time lady. They all laughed, little laughs as dry as toast. "We're in for a load of nonsense and braggadocio," she continued. She was put out that she'd been disturbed from her hobby of collecting dust. "But I don't see him getting off so easily this time." These were the Time Lords of the planet Gallifrey, and they were the most powerful creatures ever to exist. They were waiting for the renegade to enter, to confess his crimes. This time he'd gone too far, and they were going to put a stop to him, finally and forever. A hush fell over the room, the hush of a guillotine sensing the tumbril roll near. A light stabbed down onto the stage, and a figure staggered onto the beam, pinned there like a butterfly. A Zero Nun left her seat in the front row, striding up to the renegade, and bowed to him with exaggerated courtesy. "Have you anything to say for yourself?" "Good evening," I said through gritted teeth. I was in trouble. As my brain adjusted to the pounding intensity of the bright light, I tried to work out what to say to them. My people allowed me to go wandering the universe, tinkering here and there, but occasionally they'd call me to account for my actions. Normally when I overstepped the mark for some trifle or another. "Your recent actions endangered the entire universe," the Zero Nun informed me. "Yes, something trivial like that." The crowd seethed. There was a hunger to them. They were a bloodthirsty bunch. "Come now, have you nothing to say for yourself?" Her tone was coaxing, as if she was speaking to a sulking backward child. There was the exact sound of 1,000 Time Lords leaning forward on their benches, waiting for me to fall. "Well, Doctor," the nun pressed, "we are offering you a chance to account for your actions. Surely," and she baited her trap with honey, "surely, Doctor, you can't have meant to put us all in danger. We've allowed you certain freedoms, and you can't have intended to repay us with such recklessness. Can you now?" "Well," I began. I had something to say. Of course I did. It just wasn't what they were expecting. You will allow me to speak freely?" "But of course." The Zero Nun smiled like a haunted tree. "No doubt you have an excellent explanation. After all, I'm sure I vouch for all of us when I say that we'd hate to have to wipe you from existence." My audience nodded sanctimoniously, all the time sharpening their knives. "Come now, Doctor," the Zero Nun prompted. "Let's get to the bottom of this together." "All right," I told her. "But in order to do so, I need to teach you about fear." "Fear?" She blinked. That got her. "Yes." I addressed the entire chamber. "You see, even the Time Lords are afraid of something, and tonight I'm going to show you what that is. Are you sitting comfortably? Of course you are. And I'm rather afraid that's the problem." Chapter 1. A peculiar breeze drifted through the fading daylight on the island. The strange wind howled around the field, circling like a cat before settling down. A sheep observed all this curiously. Confirming her suspicions, a large blue box pushed its way out of thin air onto the grass. The sheep shook her head sadly and trotted away. A door in the blue box opened, and I stuck my head out. "Did you hear what that sheep was saying?" I said. "I'm the doctor, and some people find it hard to believe I'm a time on the planet Gallifrey, although I try not to let it show, unless there's company around." I was dressed with careful carelessness, in my usual tumble of velvet, tweed, and corduroy, a natty little outfit, all held together by a long flowing scarf in the same way that an unreliable package can be tied up with string. What was the sheep saying? A very pretty young woman walked out of the blue box. Her name was Sarah Jane Smith, and she adored a good question as much as I adored her. Before wandering the universe, she'd been a journalist, and her questions had been of the common or garden, and what would this mean for the working mother variety. These days, her questions were often along the lines of, "Why is that tentacle trying to kill us?" So she didn't mind asking about talking sheep. Not really. "Talking sheep? I say!" A young man came out of the blue box, blinking heartily. He wore a duffel coat, Wellington boots, and a look of constant surprise. His name was Harry Sullivan, and he was a polite boy who'd been sent to a reasonable public school before being issued with a blazer and a medical degree and sent out into the wide world to make the best of things. A child at heart, he was cursed with hapless enthusiasm that had vicars' wives putting a protective hand on their best china. Harry's excitable disposition didn't allow him to get over many things in life. Certainly he'd never gotten over the fact that my little blue box could go anywhere in the universe. He knew that it was called a TARDIS, and that through a rather charming mistake, it had looked quaintly like those old police boxes he used to see on street corners. He vaguely grasped that it could travel in time, but he could never hide his disappointment that the TARDIS didn't look like a proper spaceship with rockets and so on. Instead, it tried to be as small as possible on the outside while remaining literally huge on the inside. Why did it do this? Perhaps, I suggested, because she's shy. I'd taken a few bouncing steps across the heather and was now staring at the beach beneath us. The island looked picturesque enough, but there was something in the air. I watched the waves sweep across the empty beach, and I couldn't help shivering. "Did the sheep perhaps tell you where we were?" Harry prompted dryly. "She told me that you were going to say that." "Of course she did." Sarah was wearing a long, flowing floral print dress and sturdy leather boots. This was not her first trip with me. "And where are we?" "We're just off the coast of Scotland. Probably the Scilly Isles." Sarah gave me a firm nudge with her elbow. "The Scilly Isles are nowhere near Scotland." Well, they're near enough if you're not from Earth," I announced. "From a certain distance, everything's terribly close." "Oh, of course." Sarah rolled her eyes at Harry, and Harry rolled his eyes back. I could sense I was being mocked and broke into a broad grin. "Why has the TARDIS brought us here?" asked Sarah. "I'm not sure," I admitted, brought a hand to my eyes and surveyed the landscape. "Perhaps it's because of that field," I announced. "It's a good place for a picnic." I led my friends in solemn procession to a flat meadow, where I brought out a vast tartan blanket. On it I laid out sandwiches and a little cake stand, and small bowls of trifle. "What a spread!" marveled Harry. "Where'd you find all this?" "I've been keeping it in the pantry for a special occasion," I confessed. "Originally made it for one of Henry's wives, but the honeymoon was a disaster." I frowned. "Do you know, I've forgotten something." I stomped off back to the TARDIS. Left behind, Harry picked up a sandwich and stared at it dubiously. "It looks fresh." He sniffed at it. "Smells okay, too." Sarah snatched the sandwich from him and took a bite. "Oh, Harry," she laughed, mouth full wide. "Live a little." "It's precisely because I want to live a little that I'm being cautious, old girl." Harry adopted a tone that Sarah could never be entirely sure about. "You must remember that the doctor's an alien. He's probably got a special appendix that deals with food poisoning." "A special appendix?" Sarah had found a pork pie. "Harry, you're supposed to be a doctor." "Well," mumbled Harry, "you know what I mean." He nibbled at the edges of an egg cress sandwich. The two of them settled back on the blanket, looking up at the perfect late afternoon sky. The sea rolled nearby, and the two of them started to feel at peace, relaxed, even drowsy. "You know what?" declared Sarah. "I might just take a nap." "Good idea," mumbled Harry. "We don't normally get to do that. All my travels with the doctor, we're so busy being shot at and transmogrified that we never get the chance for a little doze." "Maybe our luck's changed." Harry's voice was a little more than a whisper on the breeze. "I feel completely at peace." At that point, something startling happened, and Harry Sullivan sat up. "What the devil is that noise?" "Good news!" I bounded back into the meadow. "I found my ukulele." After a few minutes of fiendish strumming, I'd driven Harry away down to the beach where he was setting up a game of rounders. Sarah was lying across my boot, listening to me plucking my ukulele like a Christmas turkey. "Bet you didn't know I played, did you?" "I'm still not sure you do." Sarah took a bite of an apple and considered. "Is that a tune?" I looked affronted. "I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street." "Really, Doctor?" asked Sarah quietly. "Oh, yes. It was popular during the French Revolution, you know." We sat watching Harry fall over on the beach while putting down stumps. I played on. After a while, Sarah gave me one of her penetrating looks, and I began to feel like one of her interview subjects. I was beginning to pen my resignation when she finally asked her question. "We're not really here for a picnic, are we, Doctor?" "No," I agreed. "Something brought the TARDIS to this place, and I want to know why. Something good? Something evil?" She paused and sighed. "It's going to be something evil, isn't it?" "Oh, probably," I grinned. "Just in case, let's not make any sudden moves." Down on the beach, Harry paused in the art of setting up stumps. He frowned. Harry left intuition and so on up to Mother, sisters, and Sarah Jane Smith. But there was something, definitely something up in the air. He heard the distant call of a cuckoo. And there was something else, a distant sound carried on the air. Half the creak of a haunted house door, half the crack of a giant's knuckles. Harry shivered and then forced a smile. "Ready when you are," he called up to us. So we went and played rounders together on the deserted beach. Harry gathered sticks and used them as stumps. They poked up through the sand, reminding me of the fingers of a giant skeleton. Despite my enthusiasm and Harry's endless cries of "Bravo!" there was something in the air. The sea crashed on the shore. Birds called warnings to each other, and the wind tugged at Sarah's hair. I could see her attention wasn't really on the game. She was probably trying to work out what was coming next. Something moved far out at sea. A slight underwater glint. She turned to look at it, and as she did, she quite missed the best shot. "I've hit it." "Very good," she said dutifully. "It went over your head. Weren't you supposed to catch it?" "That was the idea, old girl," Harry chided. He was so awfully eager, like a games teacher who wasn't going to last a term. "The ball's gone into that field," I said, hoping someone would go and get it. "Well, you did hit it a terribly long way," Harry said, politely but firmly. Didn't I? I accepted my fate. "I'll just go and fetch it." I strolled to the field, hands deep in my pockets, trying to whistle away my forebodings. The sun was setting, taking its time, too. This was a nice enough island, a nice enough planet, and all I had to do was find a missing ball. I asked a passing scarecrow. "Excuse me, sir," I doffed my hat. "Have you seen my ball?" The scarecrow didn't answer, but then again I didn't expect him to. Something about the poor fellow caught the corner of my eye. My word! The scarecrow was dressed like a vicar. His tattered black cape flowed in the wind. A Homburg hat was pulled down over his turnip head. Splotches of mold blossomed into ghastly approximation of eyes and mouth. Clutched in his tattered gloves was the missing ball. My life was full of so many remarkable coincidences that I barely remarked on them any more. I was struck by this man of straw preaching to the sparrows. It simply seemed natural that my ball had ended up lodged in the hay preacher's hand. I reached up for the ball. Peculiarly, it did not come free. Somehow, the scarecrow had a strong grasp on it. I gave it a firm pull, and still the ball did not come loose. This is both embarrassing and unusual, I admitted. Please, may I have my ball back? The ball fell into my hand. I doffed my hat. Thank you, I said, and headed back for the beach. The wind stirred around the straw vicar, tugging at his vestments. When I looked back, it seemed as though the scarecrow's head had turned slightly to watch me go. Sarah and Harry looked up as I scuffed my way across the sand towards Sarah and Harry. I got the ball back. Technically, I'm out. I pointed to the field behind them. I've just been caught by a scarecrow. What scarecrow? Remarked Harry. You can't miss him. Scarecrow, dressed like a vicar. I turned back to look at the field. Or maybe he was a vicar dressed as a... The field was empty. We played some more rounders. Or rather, Sarah hit the ball a lot, and Harry and I scampered amongst the dunes. From the way I kept fumbling my catches, Sarah could tell I was preoccupied. Mind you, I'm always preoccupied. You keep glancing back at that field, she said. I do, don't I? Perhaps it was really a vicar. I know what I saw, Sarah. But scarecrows don't go wandering off, not unless they've got another appointment. Maybe the farmer came back and took him away, suggested Harry gamely. I can't see any crows, can you? The scarecrow was clearly doing too good a job. Yes, that was probably it. Sarah and I regarded Harry. I think the light's going, I said eventually. Let's have some trifle. We could hear the kettle screaming as we tottered up the beach to the meadow. Lovely sound, I said, picking up the pace. There was nothing so quite urgent as tea. We reached the meadow. We stopped. My picnic was wrecked. Smashed plates, broken teacups, crumpled cutlery. A tottering pile of sandwiches had been pushed into the ground. Slivers of glass floated in a beached trifle. And there we go, my friends. The prologue and first chapter of Scratchman by Tom Baker. I hope that you enjoyed my story. If you wish, you can like it. And if you want, I'd really appreciate it. Let me know how you liked it, and if you have any constructive criticisms as to my performance. If there are enough, there's enough likes and wants for this, I can continue the story. Just let me know. Until then, I'd like to thank all of you for your continued support throughout the years. I know it hasn't been easy. No, I don't plan on becoming, famous with this, but it's just a little experiment, something I like to do. And again, until then, I bid you all a good day. I hope you all have fun and keep safe. This is Murphy's Law, Gallifreyan Time Dragon, aka the Doctor, signing off.